variable, right? A variable. Why do we call it a variable? Because there's multiple values of it. It varies, right? So we got something like time. So it can be at this point in time, or this point in time, or this point in time. And this is a variable. So here's the x variable and the y variable. So that's what you gotta keep in mind. You're showing the relationship of those two variables. And so practice it. If it seems like a foreign language, just practice it. Be in a study group, explain it to each other. In circles, take turns explaining it. The more you talk about it, the more fluent you become. Right? And so what am I drawing here? That's an exponential growth because we recognize that from math as an exponential curve. And of course, logistics. And where are we changing? Is it a value, is it a particular value of this variable? Or is it a value of this variable? It's a population density. Okay. So keep that in mind. So if you need practice, just practice it. I'll help you. This is here, and this is foraging honey. Put it in meters. So 0 is our seeds on the ground, and let's say up to about 3 meters. So we're in a shrubby area, right? In the understory under a forest, or in a shrubby kind of shrubland area. And the vole likes seeds that are on the ground, but doesn't really like the pond very much. And so if we look at simultaneously the height and the size, here's our two-dimensional range. Then, what about the vole? So the finch. The finch really does not like to be on the ground. It's a dangerous place for birds. Birds can fly, they like to be up. Snakes are on the ground and so forth. They don't like to be on the ground. So they forage from these heights. So if you look at the two dimensions, for the green-tailed towhee, there's the ranges of those in two dimensions, of those two resource axes. And so, are they competing? It looks like it, but now that we have more than one axis, not only do we have two axes, but they might interact with each other. So for instance, the towhee, the green-tailed towhee is happy to be high up in the shrubs. That's where it's safest. So it'll eat, and now I'm going to show, we go out and we actually collect data on where they actually are foraging. They'll come down to the lower to the ground, but only if you pay them with a large seed. They're not going to get low unless the seeds are large. And so we go out and do this first. And these are our actual data points. And you can see where they actually lie. Because there's an interaction. It's not random. Same thing is true with the redback vole. Redback voles do not like to be up into the tree. And they can't fly, and if they're holding stuff, it means that they're not that agile. So they would rather be on the ground. They'll eat any size seed on the ground. But if they have to go high in the tree, they don't want big lobes, they want little lobes. And so collect actual data, and we find. So, are they competing? No, their niches don't overlap at all. It looks like it if you look at each at a single axis by itself, or even both of them without seeing how they actually interact. It looks like they compete, but until you actually do your due diligence, you might find that they don't, that they're not They may not overlap at all. What if we see something like this? Here's some axis, here's another axis, and we see this niche, two-dimensional niche, and are they competing? It looks like it. However, what should we do? Are there more axes? Why, yes, there are. Look, there's this x-axis coming straight out toward you, and I can see where I'm standing. You can't see it. You're seeing the shadow, the two-dimensional shadow of those. But where I'm standing, I can see that the red ball sphere is here, and the green one's out here. And I can see right between them. They don't touch at all. But you can't see that from your angle. You're just seeing the two-dimensional shadow of those three-dimensional niches, right? So that's what Hutchinson is saying. Don't be too quick to think that competition is occurring until you've done all the due diligence. Actually study those organisms, see what they're doing, see when they're doing it, what time of year, what time of day. You have to do all those things to really understand if competition is occurring. Because, guess what? Natural selection has greatly rewarded those populations that have been able to avoid competition in one way or another. So that's how so many of them can coexist. They often have divided up the resources in a way that may not be obvious until you study them very carefully. Species and a green species. And it looks like they, based on their apparatus, that they're competing. So let's say they are. We've done our due diligence and they really are competing. If you were the green species, actually let's make it bill size. Stay in the same, use the same variable. If you were a member of the green team, would you want a big bill or a little bill? What would your preference be? Big bill? Big bill, why? No competition. If it's big enough, you got no competition. The bigger it is, the less competition you're going to have from at least inter-specific competition. You still have to compete. Actually, you're not even competing with that many of your own. So you get to the point where you're free from competition. And if you got a little bill, not only are you competing with some of your own, but you're competing with the red species. If you were a member of the red population, would you want a big bill or a little bill? A little bill, give a plus as an advantage because no competition. And you got a big disadvantage of having a variable am I actually describing here, the pluses and minuses? It's who's going to be more successful at passing on their genes. The pluses are, and the minuses are going to have fewer descendants. So what's plus, what's minus? Well, here, let's do it. If this persists through evolutionary time, we would expect distribution of bill sizes in the red and green to look like this. So, is this, do you remember the three patterns of selection? It was stabilizing, disruptive, and directional. Which is this?
Disruptive. Never mind.
You're having it change your thought. Let's vote. How many think it's stabilizing? And I'm wrong. How about, so it's between disruptive and directional. Who wants to argue for disruptive? Okay, go ahead.
I just remember like, maybe there's stabilization.
Who wants to argue then for directional?
Whatever this causes speciation, right?
this speciation?
It
Ooh.
causes it, right? Oh, it already is?
Oh.
Alright, then I'm mixing.
Oh,
it.
so what is this then?
Maybe it is stabilization.
You're this close, you're almost there. Last step, those are two different populations. Come on, just say it out loud. Yes.
It's two cases of directional selection, right? Disruptive selection
Is where a single gene pool is being divided into a polymorphism, perhaps two different species. Here we have two different cases of directional selection. We don't have a population divided.
we've got two different populations.
Oh my god, I get it now, I get it.
Aha, exactly right. And so that's one thing that can happen. Or if one is like a really, really great competitor, it could stay in the same place and just shove the other one over, right? So in case it could be a single case of directional selection with just one. But in this case, I have them each affecting the other, kind of the way you expect in this example. Okay, cool.